And I am here for my next video. Several exciting things afoot. I have started using some new recording software. I hope you all uh, can notice and appreciate the new, much higher frame rate I'm able to achieve with it. I'm probably going to be upping my graphical settings some. Um, but I hope you can notice a difference looking at this little ship. I am now in Minmitar space, so I was able to buy a Minmitar shuttle, which is absolutely one of my favorite designed ships in the game. For just a simple little ship, I think it's cool looking. In the station, it actually doesn't look as cool as I think it does when you're actually in space. But hopefully you can enjoy looking at that one. Another new ship I have in my hangar is an Iteron 1. We see much larger than the shuttle as it automatically zoomed me back. This is a ship good for storage and hauling. Um, I've talked about it briefly before. This is just the Iteron 1 variant with a couple of expanded cargo holds. I think it's got about 6,000 um, capacity. Actually, only 4,500 meters cubed capacity. So, not huge, but definitely useful for moving stuff around. Finally, my last ship is a caracal, which is a Caldari cruiser. I am now able to fly a cruiser. I'm going to share my fitting with you. It's a passively tanked ship, or I'm passively tanking it with this setup. I've got 5 light missile launchers, upgraded Malkuth light missile launchers. I decided against heavy missiles, although you can put heavy missiles on a cruiser. It would not have left me with very much tank at all. And I'm going to be using it for level 1 and level 2 missions, which are predominantly frigate targets, which the heavy missiles would be ineffective against. I'd have to use a target painter. I'd be losing even more mid slots that I could. So my tank would be even weaker still. So I think this is going to be a nice balance between gank and tank. So the missile launchers hopefully will provide the DPS that I need. An afterburner help me just get through the missions quicker. Not really key to combat, but still should be useful. 2 limited adaptive and vulnerability fields. These are going to increase my resistance for my shield, which you can see listed. Actually, you can't see the difference right here. These are the base resists that I'm getting right now. 2%, 22%, 42%, 51% for explosive, kinetic, thermal, and EM. When I turn these on, my lowest resist being EM is going to go up to about 45%, and my explosive resist gets up into the 70s, I believe, which means for every 100 damage that gets through to my ship, I'm actually only going to take 30 of that. The next 2 items that I have are what make it a passive tank. Instead of shield boosters, which you've seen how quickly they can drain my cap, I have shield extenders. What these do is these increase the amount of shield that I have, not how quickly it comes back. So if we turn these off, we see that my shield has 1,719 points. So turn these back on and we go all the way up to 6,600 from 1,700. So instead of trying to boost my shield back as it's damaged, sort of pre-boosting it up to a really, really high level, but that will only repair with that passive rate, which is why it's going to take 1,000 seconds for that HP to come back, which does mean it will be key to be docking between missions and letting it quick recharge while I'm in station. Even though I'm not using a booster, I'm still not cap stable. It will deplete in 2 minutes and 50 seconds, which should be plenty of time. And if I turn off my afterburner, I do become cap stable at 57%. Or if I turn off one of my invulnerability fields, say near an end of a fight when it's not really necessary, my cap now doesn't deplete until 7 minutes and 48 seconds, which means I'm very, very close to stable, and with both off, I'm again cap stable at 57%. So the one thing missing on my fit, I'm supposed to have 2 ballistic control systems, but the ship cost me over 7 million ISK, plus I had all the fittings and a shuttle and an Iteron, and I needed missiles for it, and I needed a couple of drones for it, because I do have a drone bay in this ship, which I'm excited to show you those. So I have a couple of acolytes in there. All that left me with a grand total of 3,179 ISK, so I did not actually have enough to buy that last ballistic control system. But the 320,000 ISK I'm going to get from this first mission should be enough. Hopefully there will be one nearby so I can complete my fit. The ballistic control system is increasing the damage done by my missile launchers. You will also have noticed, I don't think I've talked about it before, that when I was talking about that capacitor usage and which modules I could turn off and on, and in the past I had always talked, oh that's kind of funny, another caracal undocking at the exact same time as me. Um, but I had talked in the past about, my weapons affecting my capacitor, my blasters, my railguns that I've been using. The missile launchers do not use any capacitor. That also means that if I lose all of my capacitor either through eating it up through modules or if somebody were to use a hostile module on me to get rid of my capacitor, it will not affect my ability to do damage. My damage is completely unrelated to my capacitor at this point. My ballistic control system doesn't need it. My missile launchers don't need it. The only thing we're using capacitor for is propulsion and tank. Now, although it's technically a passive tank, I do have active modules in the passive tank, which can be a little bit confusing, I'd imagine, for new players. And wow, is that a very large group of very large ships. Um, we see the smugglers in here with a 1.2 million ISK bounty. I would love to be able to go in and just clear out that spawn. Um, but that's not intended for combat. This mission, that looks like, was just to take a look at them, so we will go back to station. I really was hoping to be able to do some fighting with this new ship. But yes, although the modules are active and it's considered a passive tank, I will have to always make sure I'm turning these on as soon as I start taking damage. It's not like a booster where you wait to take some damage. The whole point of these modules is to stop the damage from ever occurring. In fact, if I do turn them on, I can do a show info on my ship. Now that they're active, it will affect the GUI attributes. The attributes listed in the GUI does update to reflect your modules. And we see my worst resistance is still all the way up to 41.2%, 70.6 on my explosive. And the majority, if I go back to Caldari space, or if I were to go into Galente space, most of your rats and missions are going to be focused on kinetic and thermal damage. The Garistis and Serpentis, that's the main damage that they deal. I'm averaging between the two of those at 57% or so. So more than half the damage being blocked by those modules. And we'll go ahead and request our next mission. And unfortunately, it looks like my... Oh, he's only a couple of jumps away. We'll go ahead and knock that out. Hopefully he'll give us a combat mission. This will also be nice. You'll get a chance to see Minmitar gates. You've seen the inside of the Minmitar station, definitely textured a little bit different. The Minmitar station here, definitely a different look from the Caldari ones that I've been looking at in the past, and the Galente ones that we saw for a bit when I was doing my Sisters of Eve missions in Galente space. Amar is the only space I have not been to yet with this character. For those curious, I did my shopping in Rennes. Rennes is the big Minmitar trade hub, which I've talked about trade hubs in the past, Jita being the Caldari one that I've done most of my shopping at so far. Ursulert and Dodixie are the two trade hubs in Galente space. They've waxed and waned on which one is the major trade hub, and there are a lot of small trade hubs in Galente. Really just never had one get as established as, say, Jita or Rennes has managed to, and Amar is the trade hub in Amar. That's nice and easy to remember. The ship is definitely slower. My top speed without my afterburner being 204 kilometers per second. With it on, it does get up to... I've got to uncloak by moving before I can turn on my afterburner. That does give me a 431 meters per second, so my afterburner speed is actually pretty close to what my base speed was in my frigate. So definitely a slower ship, definitely less agile. It's going to take longer to get into warp. Still pretty quick. It's definitely not like flying a battleship. The first time you get in a battleship, you definitely feel like you're just driving a bus. My warp is slower. It warps at the same speed as a battleship at 3 AU per second. My Iteron we were looking at earlier and some other ships will warp at 4.5 AU per second, and frigates and quick ships like that will warp at 6 AU per second. So we can see me losing all of my money as I buy stuff in Rens. Something else, you'll see I am now getting taxed on my missions. I don't know when that started. I believe the profession missions did not get taxed. But what that means is 10% of all of my mission income, and also, we'll see if maybe we have some here, 10% of my bounty prizes. Oh, I thought 10% of my bounty prizes, perhaps not. Well, oh, there we go, bounty prize corporation tax. Oh, I believe there's a minimum amount necessary for it to be taxed, so it must be anything over, say, 150,000 gets taxed, I think. So once you make over 150,000 in a given transaction, your NPC corporation is going to take 10% of that ISK away from you. If you join a player corporation, they typically will have their own taxes. Some, especially those that cater to new players, may only have 5%, 2%, or even a 0% tax, but it isn't uncommon to see in that 5 to 10% range. It's a very common tax rate. Now, that does only affect bounty prizes and mission payments and other similar items like that. It does not affect market transactions. So if you were to go out, say, and mine and then sell your ore that you got on the market, the corp would never see any of that ISK. Corporations that focus on mining as a corporate activity will typically have group ops, and then the corporation will get to keep a percentage of that each op. And I have made a mistake that I've made so many times. I read the mission, I set my destination, and I did not accept the mission. So we'll go ahead and end our video here, and I will start my next video once I finally get my shiny new ship into combat. I'm clearly over eager for it to get my uninsured ship that I'm unsure of its fitting into combat. So I hope to see you on my next video. Thanks.